Cuffs are off, man. Get right. Too many left.
Hey everybody, Adam Rank here.
What's up, friends? Daniel Dopp here from the Fantasy Focused Football Podcast over on ESPN.
It's Fabs here, Michael Fabiano from Sports Illustrated.
Hey fans, this is AJ Dillon of the Green Bay Packers.
I got to give a shout out to y'all at Get Right Fantasy.
You know who you can trust? If you've got some questions about your fantasy squad,
If you are not subscribed, what are you waiting for? You want to lose your league? If you want to check out a cool show on YouTube that'll help you get ready for the fantasy football season,
check out the Get Right Fantasy Network.
check out the Get Right Fantasy Network. You got to get right with the Get Right Fantasy Network.
Best of luck with your podcast. Appreciate the support.
Get you right. Enjoy the show.
And I'm getting down cause I want my sleeves up. And I'm getting right cause I want my sleeves up. And I'm getting down cause I want my sleeves up. And I'm getting right cause I
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Extra Point. It's your boy, Phil Ruskin. I am your host, joined as usual by my guys, Kendall and Mike. We have 8 days, really 7 days, guys, until the actual NFL draft, which is, if you're not excited, get excited. Green Bay, Wisconsin. Detroit broke the attendance record last year. You know, a division rival like the Packers is never going to let Detroit keep that record. So I expect there to be another record broken this year, attendance-wise. But for all those that are here tonight, we have a special episode because, as we like to do before every draft, we're going to go and do a rookie mock draft tonight.
Oh, yeah.
It is a 12-team format, 6-point passing touchdown, super flex. We're only going to go 3 rounds. We will be breaking down the picks at the end of the draft. So for those that are watching, I know the guys that are in here that are going to draft live, they like to get going. They like to draft. If they want to stay and watch the show, awesome. We'd love to have you. If you just want to draft because it's a practice mock for your own leagues and you want to jump off, cool, no problem. But the 3 of us, hopefully all 3 of us, Kendall. Kendall is a trooper, by the way. He's not feeling his best, and he knows he is committed to the business. He's committed to the podcast. He is here, even though he is not 100. So we love you for that. We appreciate that. But we will, 3 of us, will break down the picks. We'll talk about the rankings, consensus. We'll talk about players that we like, picks that we think are maybe a little bit higher than the market, maybe some guys that we expect that could jump up as soon as the actual draft happens. We all know that this sleeper app is a little bit slow to catch up to the market. So the rankings you see on the screen when I share the screen here in a little bit so you can watch the draft, it is what it is, right? I think we all pretty much know the first couple picks will probably be pretty chalky. Don't ask me to say that twice. But afterwards, I tell you right now, I'm going to want to talk about Matthew Golden, right? I think a lot of us want to know, talk about him. He's a great player. We expect him to rise in the rankings. I'm curious where he goes tonight, but there's going to be other guys that we certainly want to talk about as we get into it. So you boys ready?
Sure, man.
Ready to go. Let's do it. Without further ado, for those that are listening at home, or for those that are watching the show, thank you, Rasta. I appreciate it. That hat is sick. You know me, and I love my hats. I've got probably more hats than any human being should, but love me a good old Niners hat. So yeah. And now I've gotten off track because I was talking about my hats. We did a 3X randomization. So for those that are new to the show that haven't seen before, when we do our Friday night mocks, when we get into the summer, we will be hosting those again. Kendall and Mike will be hosting those all summer long. I will be there as well. But that's really your guys' thing. I mean, you guys really take that on every single week.
For sure.
We always do a 3X randomization. So I do have the 101 in this draft, but I 3X'd it. It just happens that I got that pick. It's a mock draft, not a big deal. But is there, before we start, just 1 minute, maybe each of you, is there anything that, I know the format, obviously, and what you need in your league, how many picks you have, but do you guys have any sort of a secret sauce for the folks out there when it comes to rookie drafts, or are you simply taking best available, maybe trying to do an in-draft trade? Mike, I'll start with you.
I mean, it really it varies league to league, and what your particular situation is. Some of my leagues, I'm looking for wide receivers just because of the format. On top of the fact that most of my dynasty leagues, I might be a little short at wide receiver. So I might, that might be the one thing I'm looking for a little bit more than, most. But there is no right or wrong way, to be fair. It's really who you feel is necessary at that point. It's not like redraft where, you're trying to get a little bit of value. Of course, you want some. It's always
Yep.
great to get. But a lot of teams and a lot of managers tend to go for who they want. And it's, you see a lot of reaching when it comes to rookie drafts. So there's no real sauce other than get the guy that you're looking for that fits your particular build and go from there.
Kendall, anything to add on that?
So I'm usually our resident, market watch guy, right? It's I probably know the least amount about the actual NFL, right? So here's kind of how I look at it. Year to year, I look at what's the market talking about with the class, and then try to compare the tiers a little bit, see if I can't find some value, i.e. like if tier 1 running backs just aren't the same as tier 1 wide receivers. This draft is very similar in where it's a deep running back class. And I'm seeing that if I'm attacking the draft board this year, I think there's going to be lots of situations where there's going to be an ADP value or faller, but I still want to target a positional group, right? Being running back. So I'm going to try to be disciplined and not catch the falling knife is the analogy I'd probably use with some of the wide receivers. Just they're hard to pick who's really going to emerge depending on landing spot, where the running backs, I just think there's really 12, maybe more really talented people in the class, and I want as many picks. So I'm probably going to reach depending on where ADP is and really rely on my own rankings and what I want out of it.
Well, let's do that, and we'll talk about it as we get through it. But as you can see here, we're going to go ahead and jump in. I do have 10 minutes on the clock simply because Kendall and I have done a ton of these and we get to talking about players and we're on the clock and we forget to pick. So I don't expect this to take 10 minutes each. In fact, if we just bang through this in, 30 seconds each, I know the guys that are online will be drafting quite quickly. But I'm going to go ahead and start us off here. If you guys can go ahead and please, if you haven't, just mute the bell because we don't want to hear the bell every time someone's on the clock. I'm at the 101 and I'm going to be honest, it is a super flex league. Mm-hmm. And I'm still going to take Genty here, even in a super flex. He's the best player, in my opinion. He has 100%. The highest ceiling, in my opinion. If you look at what Bijan and Gibbs have done over the last couple of years from their rookie, only 2 years each, but if you look at what their ascension has been, they have been as advertised. They were billed as generational talents. They have absolutely delivered on that. They have finished inside. Gibbs has finished inside the top 5 both years, if my memory is correct, right? And I think he was RB1 this year, overall RB1, if my memory is right? Okay, perfect. So we have a player here in Genty that, again, every prospect we know can bust, but this is a player who is being billed in that Bijan and in that Gibbs type category. He has the frame, he has the size, he destroyed the collegiate metrics. So I don't care that it's super flex. I'm going to take Genty. I think he's probably in all formats. In one quarterback leagues, he's going to be the 101, but I think super flex, he's probably going to be the consensus 101. Do you guys see it? Do you guys see it differently at all? Or are we all aligned on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty aligned.
Yep. So Travion Henderson going off the board here at the 102. Anybody have a particular conviction? I know Hampton seems to be a very consensus RB2, but both of the Ohio State players, Kinshawn Judkins and Travion Henderson, I expect to go in the first, and I expect to go very high. We'll talk about some of this as we get through it, but Henderson going above Hampton. Mike, I'll start with you.
I think both guys are incredibly talented and both will be holding on I think they're both going to be in situations that work well. I think they're going to be, I'm aiming for Hampton at 20 to Denver Broncos. I think that's kind of where I think he might land in the draft. But he's an incredibly talented running back. So is Henderson. They are both incredibly talented and can be used multifaceted. Both can catch balls out of the backfield. I like both of them. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those guys at 2. So I'm not against either or. I understand the Cam Ward, letting him fall. So, yeah.
And keep in mind, so I'm going to change it to 2 minutes just because I know there's a guy or two that may not be on here when we are on the clock. Let's keep each other honest. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I'm not in on Cam Ward, and I'm okay being wrong. You guys have heard me 100 times talk about players that I'm not in on, and always preface it with "I am okay being wrong." And more times than not, when I'm not in, like I was not, Kendall, you know this. I was very anti all Jacksonville Jaguars last year. All of them. I didn't want a single thing to do with a Jacksonville Jaguar on my roster in redraft, and I didn't have any of them. And for the most part, I wasn't wrong. And that's not to sit here and toot my horn. It's just to say that, like, I'm okay if I miss the boat on a specific player. And I just don't. I think Cam Ward is the number one quarterback in this class. I do. I think. How do you say Tyler? Is it Show? Is it Schaff from Louisville? I don't know how to actually say his last name. But the Louisville is it Show? Okay, but the Louisville quarterback could end up being the best quarterback in this class. Jalen Milroe is being talked about now as potentially being the most athletic quarterback in the class. He's a poor man's Lamar Jackson. I heard that comp today. I don't agree with it either, but I'm saying there are those out there that are putting that type of a spin on this. And so to me, it's like, I'm just not in on this quarterback class at all. I think the running back class is deep. I think the wide receiver some of these wide receivers have super high ceilings for tight ends.
Yeah.
This could be another year where we see a rookie. We could see Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland finish potentially again as another third year in a row as the overall tight end one. I think both of them are extremely talented. Mm-hmm. Kendall, in the quarterback class, how high, let's say that you need a quarterback because that makes it a stronger argument. How high would you take Ward, and would you take him over Genty or Tet, or we saw Henderson at the 102 here? How high would you take Cam Ward, super flex?
Right now, I can't take him above Hampton.
Yeah,
I think
I was gonna say that.
I'm not as sold on Tet. I need to see landing spot first. Is kind of what I'm saying. I think Tet could fall a little bit. Like, I like the talent.
Ooh,
interesting.
So I mean, here I'm kind of put to it, right? So that's a Hampton pick for me. Where it's Hampton, but like I still have Ward over Henderson in particular. Even I'm very pro Travion Henderson, by the way. Okay. It's more of a Hampton's particular size, speed, comp, decent pass catching, actually underrated pass catcher. I just think he has the chops to just handle a lot of situations at the NFL level and be a clear 3-down back. Or if it's not like a clear 3-down back, if it's a timeshare situation, which most backfields are, he's still getting all the high value touches. And I just think he'll be a better running back. Where Henderson, I feel like he also needs the right coach too. It's not just fit, but it's coach. It's a lot of things that need to happen, where I just feel like Hampton is closer to that can't miss prospect, where I think he's going to retain and hold a lot of value. Cam's going to have a lot of value for a little bit just because it's super flex. But if he's not the guy, I mean, he's just not going to be the guy. Where I think running backs are easy to mock in terms of talent to the NFL is pretty easy to see. And I think we're going to see it with him. So I think it's a safer bet.
Yeah. So you made an ooh when Travis Hunter went off the board, Mike. We'll talk about him. We're going to get to this and we're going to break this all down here at the end. I think Travis Hunter, to me, is going to be extremely landing spot dependent. And I think he is going to be one of those players that just is all over the board when it comes to his draft selection.
Oh,
do you agree?
For sure.
I think he could go as high as the 102 in certain leagues. I think he could fall to the back of the first round in certain leagues. And
the hard part with him in general is how he's going to be utilized. And
that's my point.
And for IDP leagues, he's perfect. He's the absolute number one. He should be the 101 for an IDP league. Completely understand that. For a league like any other league, he has to fall. I'm surprised. I mean, 106 is a little high for me for somebody that I'm unsure of.
Yeah.
End of the first, I'd be okay with it. I understand the value of who he is, and but it's based on the team that he goes to and how he's going to be utilized. Now we understand it's going to be either Cleveland or the Giants. We know that
should be.
But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where do you really think he'd be effective in Cleveland? Maybe he's going to be the number 2 on a team with Jerry already there. He's got Njoku, behind him, and on top of that, they're going to want to pair him with Denzel Ward on the outside. It's one of those things where I don't know if he understands the true, how it's so much different for the NFL than it is for college to be the two-way player. We'll see how that goes, but.
To me, that's the biggest question, right? Because I was reading up today a little bit. Maybe it was yesterday. I can't exactly remember. But the Cleveland GM coming out and saying, like, we see him as a guy that you can use both ways. And maybe it's pre-draft hype, and maybe it's an indication they are going to take him. Mm-hmm. My question, not we can talk about this, of course, but like my question in general, and this is, if you're in the chat, I'd love to get, some folks in the chat chiming in on this as well. I believe this is what I believe to be true about Travis Hunter. I think a team is going to let him play both ways.
Oh, for sure.
I think they're going to limit both sides of the ball. So from a fantasy perspective, I don't want to spend the 104 on a wide receiver who may only see 60% snaps or may only run 20 routes a game because he is playing 20 snaps on the defensive side of the ball every other series or every third series, right? Whereas Emeka Egbuka, I would actually have Egbuka. I think Travis Hunter is probably a better wide receiver than Egbuka is. But
Probably.
But if he's not a full-time player, I have a higher fantasy ceiling with Emeka Egbuka. I might have a higher fantasy ceiling with Matthew Golden, with Trey Harris, potentially with Luther Burden III, right? There's more. What do we want in fantasy? Volume.
Oh, volume is king.
Volume is king.
Always.
We're always chasing volume. It's why we want the Saquon Barkleys and the Bijans of the world, or the Gibbs who do want to play in a timeshare, but can just get you so many high-value touches and touchdown opportunities. So to me, it's like, I don't doubt the talent of Travis Hunter. And as a fan of the game, I want Travis Hunter to play both ways.
That would be
I
great.
want him to prove the NFL and everyone that said he can't do it. I'm cheering for the kid.
Oh,
But
yeah.
as a
No,
fantasy manager,
I don't want anything to do with it.
well, so here's my question to you, and this is what I've been thinking about, because in a lot of my leagues, I am late in the first round. I've got late firsts. At what point are you saying to yourself, this is now too good a value to pass on? Are we at the 106, 7, 8, 9? I mean, where are you in your own rankings where you're on the clock, and at what pick are you just saying, okay, Hunter's on the board, now this is a discount, this is too good to pass up?
I mean, end of the first, like 112, if he gets
Well, sure.
there,
That's the cop-out answer. Come on.
I am, but honestly, I mean, I have a lot of picks at the 108. If he fell to the 108, I still don't think I would take him at 108. I don't feel comfortable in his scenario to want to be a part of that. If you told me today, and that, if you told me today that he would be a full-time wide receiver, he's going at the 103, 104.
Agreed.
But either so the middle of the middle of the draft is kind of where he's at either way. He's not going to fall to the 112 unless everybody in my group thinks he's going to be the way that I do.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where I don't even think you're going to get value other than just, if you want to take the flyer on him, go ahead. I'm not going to be that guy. I don't trust the system. I don't trust his particular scenario to be able to do that.
I'm with you. I think to me, it's the 108, 109 where it becomes too good a value to pass up. Anything beyond that is easy. Again, everything we're talking about, for those that are listening to the show, watching the show, we do not have a landing spot for any of these players yet because we haven't had the draft.
I have guesses, but I can't.
We have mock drafts, we have projections, right? And we think we know, but at the end of the day, we know that trades are going to happen. We know that players are going to get, Cleveland could go take a defensive player. I mean, they could if they take.
Oh yeah, they definitely could screw up everything and pick up Dual Carter, and then Giants end up having to go, end up going Hunter, or they pivot and go a different route. There are so many different things that can happen. It's insane. I can't wait for next week. Being a Giants fan.
Yeah. So I'm back on the clock here to start the second round, and I'm very excited. I want to talk about three guys. I'm going to make my pick because I know who I'm going to take. But if this is a real draft and I'm on the clock, I'm looking very hard at Colston Loveland here.
Yeah, I'm
looking very hard at Trey Harris, and the player that I'm going to take is Matthew Golden. I am very high on Golden. I like the game film. I like the combine. I like the workout. I like the time. I think he's going to sneak into the back of the first round.
Okay, and that's fair. I think,
and if he gets first round draft capital, he's not going to be available at the 201. But if you're at the 110 and Golden is there, I'm comfortable with that pick. I like the player. I think this is a player that is going to be one of those guys that we're talking about in a year or two where we thought it could happen, and it could be. I'm not comparing him to Rome. Rome is the better prospect, but we knew Rome would go into a situation where he wasn't going to be the alpha.
Yeah,
he wasn't going to even be the wide receiver 2. Right, with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore there.
Yeah.
No tight end competition. So again, we don't know landing spot, but I think Matthew Golden could be one of those players that winds up going to Houston and has to sit kind of as the 1B to Nico. And then when Tank is healthy, and we'll see what I'm just making that up arbitrarily, but I'm saying he's going to go to a place where he's not going to be the wide receiver 1 immediately.
Yeah, no, I understand. The reason why I was hesitant, what I was trying to think of is if he were to go to, I'm trying to think who I want here. I have 2 guys that I'm really high on.
Well,
and
I'll
they're
give you a
both
team
available.
while you're picking. I think it's very possible that one of these receivers that we expect to go and be an alpha winds up in Seattle. I think
Who
you're
is
going to
that?
see that's going to be JS. I think you're going to see potentially Luther Burden, maybe Egbuka, Golden, or Harris. I think you're going to see one of those 4 wind up in the Seahawks.
Mid-18. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, they're at 18.
Because I saw McMillan mocked there the other day.
I'm
I think
surprised they won't go that, like, he won't go to Cincinnati. He won't go to Arizona.
No,
I think Dallas is where he might go.
it's possible.
Dallas
I
seems
think
to be the landing spot.
Dallas seems to be a landing spot for a receiver. The question is going to be who.
Oh,
So
oh no,
but that's
exactly.
my point. It's also Dallas. Like, let's not give Jerry any effing credit because Jerry is 100%.
But at the same time, we both know in that scenario, if you're looking at that particular, if you're looking at that part of the draft, in the last few years, they have taken wide receiver at this particular point. They are not scared to use a first-round draft pick on a wide receiver like they did with CeeDee Lamb when he
Agreed.
just fell right into their lap.
Agreed.
So it's one of those things where Tech could get to that point because I don't see Chicago doing it. Maybe New Orleans, maybe Carolina, but those guys are very, they need help somewhere else.
New Orleans New Orleans, I think could now it's I think it's gonna be quarterback, and I would be. I think it could be Jackson Dart.
I
think it could be Jackson Dart in the second round. I think New Orleans could take a first round whoever, and then try to sneak in or trade up and go grab Dart in the second or third on day 2.
Ooh, wow, that's juicy. My assumption and my thought process for the first round with quarterback in mind. I have been on record very strongly saying that this particular class in general is nowhere close to what the class was from last year. I view this class as
receiver wise.
No, I'm going on the quarterbacks. I'm talking about quarterbacks.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
I've been on record saying that this particular quarterback class is the 2000 class compared to the 2004 class.
Okay.
And then anyone that knows 2004, you had Ben, Eli, Phillip Rivers.
Yep.
This class is nowhere near it. 2007 class was, if anyone remembers, it is Jamarcus Russell, Brady Quinn. There were no one and everyone talked these guys up like crazy. So to me, this is not even close. I don't think that this class is a group of guys that are going to be starting day 1. I think this is a very weak quarterback class. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of different things going on where these guys can produce in some way, shape, or form down the line. But no one is – I don't see that happening this year as much as I would in years past.
Yeah.
And the biggest one, of course, is Shedeur Sanders. Everyone's like, oh, he should be going the third overall. No. Tennessee needs a quarterback. They're going to go Cameron Ward. It just makes sense. It's always been the way that the draft, how this ends up in NFL teams.
Yep.
Shedeur is not even close to this type of talent. He is at the bottom of the first, beginning of the second, in even just in a normal situation where all teams have a quarterback.
Agreed.
Jackson Dart is the only Jackson Dart and guys like Kyle McCord are all in that, and even Tyler Show.
Yeah.
They're all in the same boat to me. All 4 of them are pretty much the same caliber quarterback, other than their legs here and there.
Interesting.
So it's really just who do you want and who fits your particular scheme now, and what value are you willing to spend? I think McCord is more valuable in the context that you can get a guy like him a little bit later in the in the end of the second, maybe middle of the second. His stock has been going up lately, but right around there, you got guys like Dart where you have to you're going to have to pay up and get him right before the Steelers at 20 or 21.
Yep.
And, a guy like Shador in the same boat. But I do see, like you said, New Orleans possibly going quarterback at 9, where they could go and reach up for Shador if the Giants pass at him at 3, which I am hoping to all things that I know dear in my life that it happens, because I do not want the Giants to take him at 3. I prefer.
I would love if the Saints took a quarterback, because that drops.
I'd be fine with that,
because the Niners pick at 11, so that means there's a whole bunch of guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that we desperately need. That would
it also makes
New Orleans needs a receiver too, so it's on. I don't know, man. There's a lot that needs to get done there for Kellen Moore.
It makes me want it to happen more than anything, because then it will force it will make it where the Giants will not have to reach up to get him in the first round. So I want him gone prior to 20. I don't care where he goes.
He'll be gone.
Well, I want him to, hopefully. But you never know. There's been a lot of talk that he could fall into the second round. There's a lot of talk about Dart, overstepping him and getting it into the first round. There's a lot of talk about Shador even getting into that 34th pick where the Giants are going to be. There's a lot of talk about a lot of those things. So I'm waiting for everything to kind of fold the way it does, and hope everything turns out the way it is, especially for the Giants. But I've been following quarterback because of the Giants. I've been my brain has pretty much just been in the quarterback room.
Yeah.
And honestly, I am shocked for guys like Quentin Ewers getting picked, Will Howard, and Gabriel. All 3 of those guys shouldn't even be on the board.
Agreed.
In one way or another.
Yeah,
I understand 2 of them were auto picks, but still, they shouldn't be on the board. I honestly, they are not going to be anything special. They're not going to be anything at all. I think, if anything, you have Dart, Milroe, and I think Tyler showed that we call Show.
Yeah, we're just going to call him Show. That's just what we're going to call him anyway.
You're going to call him Show. Yeah. Show and/or Kyle McCord. I think those are the only guys that you should be seeing on these particular boards.
Yeah. So the draft is wrapped. Let's go through it. At the 101, Ashton Genty going, followed by Travion Henderson, Tet McMillan, Tyler Warren, Omari and Hampton, and then a little back-to-back receiver pick with Hunter and Egbuka. Cam Ward in a super flex at the 108, QB1 off the board. Kinshawn Judkins at the 109, Luther Burden at the 110, Shador 111, and Caleb Johnson. Anything stand out to you in that first round? For those that are listening, I know that I read those quickly, but that is a 12-team super flex 6-point passing touchdown mock draft. Anything stand out to you? Any shocks, any surprises in the first 12 selections?
I mean, Ward falling to 8 is odd for a super flex league, but it kind of shows exactly what we're talking about before about his particular, how he's going to be effective in Tennessee. Could he be a good quarterback? Maybe, but I don't see him being a world beater like, the guys that we saw, last year with May and Nix, and even Penix at the, the tail end of,
he did all right.
Second start.
Yeah.
But, where he was ranked, like his year at Miami was incredibly helpful to his stock. And now, from what I've heard from other people, if he were to be drafted in that same class after his season that he had at Miami, he would be probably like 3rd or 4th in the group that went. So that's good, but he's still going to a shit team that has a lot going on, that they need a lot to work on. And it's just it's a bad landing spot for him to be.
What are you talking about? He thinks Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears are the best 2 running backs in the league, man.
Hey, you can talk up your boys all you want.
Talk up your boys all you
want. Bring up Traylon Burks. I'll take it.
I can't believe he said Traylon Burks' name. I forgot. Is that dude even in the league? Is he even on the team?
He's still
Forgot
there.
about Traylon Burks. I dropped him off every Dynasty roster so fast.
Dude, I kept him just for the sole fact that someone else wants him, and maybe I can get something out of it.
I don't think you can get anything out of him. I don't even think you could trade him for a pack of gum in real life.
I
You can get a jelly bean. It's not happening. In the second round, Matthew Golden, Jackson Dart, QB3 off the board. Colston Loveland, tight end 2. Cam Scattaboo, Dylan Sampson, Jalen Milroe, Trey Harris, Ollie Gordon, Devin Neal, Xavier Restrepo. We'll come back on that. Isaiah Bond and Quinn Ewers. I'm going to answer my own question first.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're the Gator fan.
I'm
wondering how you feel about him.
Well, there's no Gators on this one. Restrepo is a Hurricane.
Oh, he's a Hurricane? Oh, that's
Miami.
Right. My bad. He was down there.
I always, for those that listen to the show regularly, I have 2 leagues that I have been in, 2 dynasty leagues I have been in forever. And I always have done because you know this, Mike, because we talk all the time, but I also write. I do fantasy football writing. I always do for that league 2 or 3 different versions of mock drafts that I write out, just like you would read on, Sports Illustrated or any of these other things. And the guys in the league effing love it. They absolutely love it. I just put Restrepo at like the 310. I just don't rate him. I don't rate him. I don't think he's going to be a good pro. I think he profiles as a slot guy only. And I'm not saying that you cannot succeed from the slot. We've seen Cooper Kupp dominate. We've seen other guys. We've seen Chris Godwin. That's not my point. My point is I don't think he can play outside. He's not an X.
No.
He's not going to dominate in the wide areas. He's not a contested catch guy, going to get a lot of red zone looks. So I think he's going to be a poor man's Hunter Renfrow. And you got a couple years out of Hunter Renfrow.
That's a great way to put it.
And you got a couple years of useful fantasy games and useful fantasy seasons out of Renfrow, but he was never more than a wide receiver 3. I'll have to go back and look up his stats. I don't think he ever cracked the top 24.
He didn't really do much. No.
So to me, that's what I want.
It was horrible.
Horrible. So Restrepo to me he's just not someone I'm interested in. Isaiah Bond, obviously, we just don't know what's going to happen with the news that he's turning himself into Dallas police for the serving the warrant on him.
That sometimes can help, though. If you really think about it, it will drop his draft stock. But since it's happening so early, they might not get a case in until next year. Correct. So he'll be able to play, but I think his stock will go down a smidge.
I don't know. I find myself rising on, is it Jalen or Jaden Higgins? I don't remember off the top of my head right now, but you see Higgins here at 304. Jalen Royals at the 301 that I took. I'd rather have both of those over Restrepo and Bond.
Yeah.
I would take both those. And I would take a Yomanor from Stanford. I'd take the Stanford kid. I would take all 3 third-round wide receivers over Restrepo and Bond.
I would too. I mean, that's kind of why I went Trey Harris. I mean, I had a choice between Trey Harris and Neal, and that's where I kind of went in between. I was like, which one do I do? And I mean, most of my leagues, I'm pretty stacked at running back, so I usually load up on wide receiver. And he fits a profile that I think could be very effective in the NFL, with his size. I mean, he's 6'3", 210. I mean, that's an ideal size for a wide receiver in the NFL. Yeah. I'm not a big smaller guy. Like, I'm not looking for the Xavier Worthies that are, 150 pounds soaking wet.
Agreed.
That can, run the 4.2. Good for him. But at the end of the day, he's going to take one hit and he's going to die. Try not to.
I've made my position on Xavier Worthy on this show abundantly clear.
I'm not a big fan.
Abundantly clear.
Yeah.
In the 3rd round, Jalen Royals, Alec Ayomanor from Stanford, Will Howard, Jay Din, I believe, Higgins, RJ Harvey, Jaden Blue, Jay Lynn. Jalen is a very popular name these days. Noel, Elijah Arroyo, Dylan Gabriel, and then a tight end run to end. These are autos, so this is probably just off the rankings. But Harold Fannin, Mason Taylor, and I believe that's
Grant
it
would
Helm.
Probably be Ferguson if people were giving a crap.
So I think Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are the 2 tight ends that you should target in this draft. After 100%. That, I'm not taking any shots on late tight ends. I'll waiver wire the guy. I'll taxi squad a guy. You know what I mean? Like, I'll wait until most dynasty leagues are going to be 3 to 4 round. I've got a couple dynasty leagues that are 5 round, which is crazy.
7.
7.
Yeah. But I've never heard of. We do 7, but it's salary cap, so we involve vets as well. So it's a little bit. There's many different factors in it, but that's one that goes.
Okay, but your standard dynasty league is going to be 3 rounds, 4 rounds tops, right? So I think for me on the tight end side, if I miss out on Warren and I don't have a chance to get Loveland, then I'm just passing, and that's what I do every year with tight end, right? I did take a flyer a couple years ago on Kincaid. It's been fine. It's not been bad. It just hasn't been it hasn't been Sam Laporta.
Although the whole offense changed. That was his biggest problem.
So I want to talk about Cam Scadaboo for a second because I think he's a player that people are excited about. He's being mocked into the 2nd round as a day 2 selection. I think he has a great film. He works his ass off. You saw all of them. I mean, if you have any sort of social media, you've seen him all over social media throughout the second half of the year when he was really emerging at Arizona State. I don't have a huge issue with his 204 selection here. I think there's a world where he could go ahead of Caleb Johnson. I think there's a world where Scadaboo is realistically 1, 2, 3, 4. I think he could be as high as RB5 off the board.
Where
I
do
think
you
in
think-
some leagues.
Where do you think he's going, though?
So I have the draft up in front of me, and I'm not going to run through every single thing, but
No. Just his
let's start here.
your
Let's just
general
say
thought process.
so. Genty is going to. We assume. Let's just say for this conversation, Genty goes to the Raiders. I think Hampton or Henderson is going to the Bears. That's what seems to be a box.
They are going for a running back. Yeah.
I don't know if they'll do it on day 1 in the first round, but it seems like they're going to take a running back. After 10, none of these teams need a running back, even a developmental
Except
running
for
back.
20 at Denver.
And I think that's where you're going to. I think whoever goes to Denver
Yeah.
is going to be the RB1 in Denver.
Oh, for sure. I think it's going to be. I'm predicting Hampton goes.
That's where I have Hampton there as well.
Yeah.
I think the Steelers could potentially, if they don't take Shador,
So
I don't think they're going to let Jalen. They're going to take somebody because they're not going to let Jalen Warren have the whole.
running their team currently.
Well, I know, I get that, but I'm saying they're going to take a running back at some point. It may be a round.
no,
it may
they'll
be a
definitely
day
take
2
one.
selection, but they're
It'll
going to
be a
take
day 2.
someone.
Yeah, they'll definitely take day 2, but yeah.
So the Chargers seem to be a very popular landing spot for Colston Loveland. Green
Oh,
Bay,
they don't have a second round pick.
Correct. And I would love for one of these receivers to wind up on the Packers. Because if you get a running back to the Broncos and you get a wide receiver to the Packers, I think you have 2 players that will shoot up draft boards because of the perceived volume that they could get. Because tell me, I know Rasta is probably listening somewhere and he's going to send me a nasty message after what I'm about to say, but I've also made my position on this player abundantly clear. Who is the competition there in Green Bay at the wide receiver position?
Nobody.
Because Christian Watson's ability to stay on the field is awful.
No.
Jaden Reed had a great rookie season, and then last year sort of came back down to earth.
Fell off the face of the earth.
What's it? Dobbs is Dobbs, right? Like it's not a great.
I like Dobbs more than all of them. Dobbs is the one for me.
But would you rather have Dobbs or would you rather have, let's say, Emeka Egbuka winds up in Green Bay?
I would rather have Dobbs.
You'd rather have Dobbs over Egbuka. All right, I'll take the Egbuka side of that.
Yeah,
I think Green Bay's pick at 23. I think Green Bay at 23. I think someone at 20 on Denver.
They should have went for Metcalf. That was their biggest problem.
Correct, but they didn't. I think someone at 29 for Washington is also real. I think those are 3 places.
I don't
that
think
could
so.
be not in the first round.
Oh no, okay, yeah.
But I think Washington, Green Bay, and the Broncos are the 3 teams that I think realistically a rookie has a chance to come in and be fantasy relevant right away.
Really, even for Washington,
there is no bigger Debo fan than you. Someone you are talking to.
No, I get it. Debo, they still have
Terry. They got Terry,
and they have. They don't have Brown. Who was the other guy?
They have little Luke McCaffrey, who he's not going to make an impact.
They picked up someone else. I forgot who it was.
De'Ami Brown. There's nobody there. I'll pull it.
They definitely went somewhere else. I remember looking at that roster and going, "No, this team is pretty stacked at this point." And they kept Ertz. I know it doesn't matter because he's
Brian Robinson, Terry. It's Noah Brown.
It is Noah Brown.
Yeah, okay. They got KJ Osborne, Michael Gallup, and Luke McCaffrey.
I'll concede to that. That makes sense.
So I think there's a very real possibility where a wide receiver gets selected to the.
Oh no, they picked up Gallup. That's who it was. It was Gallup.
Gallup's old, and he's coming off his 13,000th surgery.
And they have a couple guys, man. That can
coaches want the new shiny toy.
Yeah, of course they do.
They all want to show off their new shiny toys. Look who we drafted. Look how good he is. And I'm telling you, Debo is going to play as many games as he can, and it ain't going to be all of them.
Fair enough.
And I think you've got. I don't dislike Zach Ertz, but Zach Ertz is old.
Yeah, but he's still a possession guy that will get his.
Correct. And I mean, it's Kingsbury's offense. It's his boy, and I get that part of it. He's going to score some touchdowns. He's going to take some touchdowns away from players that you want to score because you're not starting Zach Ertz, but. I like the idea of a rookie going to Washington and being impactful. I think you're going to see. Here's my last thing I'll say on this, and we can move on. I like a rookie going there to be what Jahan Dotson was supposed to be for that team that never materialized.
Fair enough.
That's my comp. Is I think you could have a Jahan Dotson archetype for a receiver to go to Washington and actually be impactful versus getting shipped off to Philly to go play for your rivals twice a year because Dotson is just falling off the earth.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
Anyone else that you want to talk about here in the third round that you
not
find
really. I
interesting?
mean, not a whole lot. I mean, the two guys we went with Royals and Noel, those are two guys that I think we both, both of us have an eye on for later in drafts. I was going to ask you, out of the group that you have and the group that got drafted, who were you upset didn't fall to you?
I would have taken Caleb Johnson there, but obviously taking if this was my real team, let's just assume that for the sake of conversations, this is right. These are my picks. I probably wouldn't have taken Johnson because I have Genty unless I'm super running back needy. You know me. I always like to build my team around the receivers. I'm a big receiver. Yeah, I'm a big receiver guy. That's what I want. And it's PPR.
Yeah,
most of my leagues are PPR. I always want the receivers. I don't know if there's anyone that I was upset that didn't fall to me. I'll be honest, I was actually between Golden and Trey Harris with that pick. So I think you got great value with the 207.
Fantastic. When I saw him fall, I was very shocked.
He shouldn't be. He should. I put it this way: someone that takes Trey Harris at the 201 to 203, I think that's probably where he's going to get drafted and deserves to be drafted. Right?
Agreed.
Now, if he falls in the back end of the first round to Buffalo somehow in the real NFL draft, sure, put him at the 111, 112 range. I'm fine with that. Right? Mm-hmm. But I do think that I never expected Harris to get back around to me. But if I come out of a draft with Genty, Golden, and Royals from the front of the line, Genty aside, because obviously that's the easy, auto pick. The other two guys I'm very excited about.
Nice.
Very excited about. How about your draft? I'm just going to preface by saying I love the three players you came out of here with, but how do you feel about your group?
No, I do too. I mean, I was between a lot of guys and I was hoping a couple fell. I wanted Dart to kind of fall because I kind of think he'll be in a good spot. I think he's in the better spot of the rookie group of quarterbacks than most because I think he has the highest probability of starting. Yeah. I think that he'll walk in. I think if he goes to Pittsburgh in one way or another, he's going to start.
Agreed.
If he goes to the Giants, he's going to be sitting behind Russell for, at least the 8 weeks and then, get thrown in at one point or maybe sooner. If he maybe goes to, the Saints, he might have to have a competition with Rattler. There's a little more, there's a little more wiggle room where he could, but it's unknown. So it's murky. The Steelers are the main place if he were to go. And I think he would be the one to go there.
Agreed.
And honestly, it's really based on what happens a little bit higher in the draft. Like, we both think that Shedeur will probably go at 9. If Shedeur somehow doesn't doesn't go to the Saints, it becomes very interesting to see what happens there. Then the two players that I'd be more, Sanders and Dart are the two guys that I'm a little bit more interested in having. But I've already been on record saying I don't really like Sanders in any way, shape, or form. I don't think he's NFL ready. I don't think he's a guy that is. I don't think he's what people think he is, and I think a lot of people use his, the name on the back of the jersey more than the actual person on the field.
I agree. Yeah.
Because if he didn't play against anyone good. Like he played against Oregon, and then
it's not just that. I mean, you saw the thing
wasn't good either.
You saw the thing with the retirement ceremony.
Oh, that thing was stupid.
Well, the issue that I had with it isn't that they retired his shirt. Whatever, do what you want to do.
Yeah.
My issue is the fact that all the comments that I saw about it were true.
Yeah.
There was players at Colorado whose shirts are actually retired that won the national championship in 1990, I think, right?
Yep.
Tim Tebow didn't get his shirt at Florida retired until years after, and he won 2 national championships and was the Heisman Trophy winner. So to me, it's like we talked all last year about Marv, right? MHJ. And we were putting a gold jacket on the kid, and I said, guys, he's not caught an NFL pass yet. I don't doubt the talent of Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
But he ain't his daddy.
No.
And until he shows by his statistics and his play that he is his daddy,
then give him the credit.
Then give him the credit that's credit's due. But
that's
he was so much of a better prospect.
Oh, 100%.
So and his father wasn't.
Well,
his father was a damn good player, and his
they're
sure,
both,
you can
they're
make
both Hall of Famers. We can't,
That's true. That's fair.
But at different positions.
Correct.
But that's the whole point. I agree with you. I'm understanding everything you're saying. I'm definitely on top. My whole thing with him, Sanders has unfortunately been under his father's shadow for the last 6 years. He's been coached by him for the last 6 years. He's been under his tutelage for the last 6 years, and he's been babied by his dad for the last 6 years. That's the problem. And as much as you are hyping up your son and making him trying to be the number 3 pick overall and all that, it's not what he needs. Right. You need to do a little bit more. His pro day, he was getting in the face of the guy, the NFL scouts that were there saying, no, do your own thing. No, listen to the freaking guy that's telling you how to set up, because this is what you need to do now is listen to that coach, not your daddy. Listen to him. Yeah. And I understand everyone will make fun of me with the concept that I keep going back to his dad, but his dad kind of has a little bit more than you think into this particular equation. I'm glad that he's staying at Colorado for 5 years, because it will just harm what Shedeur does. So now you're going to put him in a situation where he's going with a coach he's probably never, he's never been with anybody else.
Playing with his dad since the 6th, 7th grade.
But do you remember the Nebraska game, or it's either Nebraska or Indiana, one of the red? I remember it was a red team, and it was in September. He ended up it was Nebraska. He was getting torched. They were getting destroyed. And what did he do? He walked out with 3 minutes left in the game, off the field, didn't wait with his teammates, didn't do anything, walked off the field and went into the back of the locker room. The next week, if it were any other?
Well, then he went to the presser and he said that he was on his back the whole game, and that what's the quarterback that looks like Mahomes that plays for Nebraska, that he wasn't on his back. He literally shit all over his offensive line. So
yeah, but you know what?
I'm with you. He needs to grow up, the kid.
Even that, it's the point that after his dad played him.
No, I know.
If it was any other kid, he wouldn't have played.
For sure. At least been suspended for a quarter, maybe the first half.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. So don't sit there and, everyone keeps defending the kid like he's the next coming of Jesus. And I'm like, guys, he's not that great. He's a good player. He's a solid quarterback. He will fit on someone's roster and sit on the bench. And he's not going to be okay with that. That's going to be the issue.
I don't know. This is the last thing I'm going to say, because then I do want to.
I know. I'm going off on.
I know.
We're going off on Sanders.
We got some guys that I do want to talk about that didn't get drafted that I think people who watch and listen to the show need to know about.
Yeah, sure.
I just want to say this really quickly. I don't think. Let's just say that Shedeur goes to New Orleans. I don't think it's a guarantee that he beats Rattler out for the job.
Exactly.
I think he will. I think at some point they will turn to him if Rattler does end up winning the job, but I don't think it's a guarantee that Shedeur just starts week 1 and that Rattler's on the bench. I don't think Rattler was very good when we saw him play. He wasn't. But again, it's like, if you can't beat Spencer Rattler to the top of the depth chart, I have questions. All right, so let's talk about some guys here. I would like to talk about Bashul Tutin.
Okay.
Because I think landing spot, of course, is going to be a huge thing for him. But I need to look this up because I want to make sure if I'm going to quote this stat that this is correct. I think, Mike, that this kid ran a 4.24. He did not. He ran a 4.32, excuse me. This kid ran a 4.32 at the combine. That's quick. That's quick.
How big is he?
I don't know. I can find it.
Oh,
Give me
I got
1
it.
second.
I got him.
Look, he went to a small school, right? North Carolina A&T. He transferred into Virginia Tech. Most kids transfer these days. They only get 1 year, maybe 2 at the big school if they come from a small program. But again, we saw Isaiah Pacheco come from Rutgers as a 7th round pick and become he's in a timeshare now. He's a trade away candidate. We've talked about that. But Pacheco was really relevant for 2 years. Right? So I'm interested.
It's because he broke his foot. I mean,
correct.
The foot is a big, like when he broke that bone in his foot, he didn't look the same. And
correct.
So didn't Tony Pollard for a year. It's gonna take a minute.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I'm saying like this wasn't Ashton Genty. This wasn't Bijan. It wasn't Gibbs. So my point being is that this is a guy who you see in this 3-round draft that didn't get drafted. I think in some of your drafts that are 3 rounds, he may go undrafted. I think he's a player that you should at least keep an eye on and put him. This is exactly, if you have a league that has a taxi squad, that is exactly what the taxi squad is for. Go spend all of your fab, if you have preseason fab, on 3 guys that you truly believe in, or 80% of your fab. If you want to have a little bit left over, do what you want to do, right? So those that are a little conservative and fiscally irresponsible, but go get 3 guys you believe in and give them the year to see what they become. And I think Tootin could be one of those players that's probably going to go in the 4th round of those drafts, or is going to go undrafted in 3-round drafts. And if he gets a good landing spot and he finds himself in an opportunity to win, or there's an injury, I think he's an interesting player.
Yeah, I mean, 206, running a 40 like Devon Achane. I mean, it's
quick,
incredible.
Man.
No, that's quick for that size. I don't know a ton about Tootin too much, so I don't want to give my take on it, because I really don't have that much to say about him.
Yeah.
But just hearing that and seeing seeing a little bit about him, that's not bad. I mean, that's someone that could, step in at one point, but he's definitely going to be, a little bit deep on a depth chart to start.
For sure. The other player, and I think this is a me thing, and I'm not entirely sure how everyone's going to feel about this, and that is okay. We don't do this show to make everyone happy. We do it to give our takes and let people make their own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in Trevor Etienne.
Interesting.
I'm interested in Trevor Etienne.
Yeah.
He's decent. I mean, look, he came from Florida, so I've seen him play a lot because I watch a lot of Gator games, and then obviously he transferred to Georgia. But this is a player that I think, again, is going to be drafted with some lower draft capital. I think day 2, maybe day 3, but I think he can sneak
early
into
day 3.
I was going to say early in round 4, but I think he can get into the 3rd round. Right? There's enough running back needy teams.
Yeah.
There's somebody that says, I'm just going to say it because the Eagles love Georgia players, and I don't know that Will Shipley is truly the guy behind Saquon. Maybe they go get Trevor Etienne and say, look, learn from Saquon for the next year or 2, and when you're ready, you're the guy, right? And like that would be a good landing spot.
That might not be a horrible landing spot for him.
Baltimore would be a great landing spot for Trevor Etienne to go and sit behind the king for a year or 2, because who else is there? Rasheen Ali.
Justice Hill has a 3-year.
Justice Hill's there, but Justice Hill's not that young, I don't think.
Justice Hill. Yeah.
Right, but how old is he?
He's like 20, I think 26. I don't think he's anything.
All right. You're right,
he's still viable because they gave him like a 2 or 3 year extension.
Yeah.
So,
right. Okay. Yeah. But my point being is, like, go where there's clearly an alpha, where you're not going to be the guy. Don't go to fucking Tennessee where there's 16 running backs and 3 of them actually play. You know what I mean? Like, don't go there. Go to Pittsburgh. As a 3rd round or 4th round pick, go to Pittsburgh where it's Jalen Warren and fill in the freaking blank for the next running back up. Because Pittsburgh loves their running backs and they're going to bring somebody in. And it's Arthur Smith.
And
Arthur Smith's running the ball on 3rd and 19 from his own 6-yard line. You know what I mean?
They were second in passes to the running back, and they were second in pass rate in rush rate. Sorry, rush rate.
Yeah. So I think these are players that are going to go undrafted in your actual dynasty leagues that are going to have some impact at the NFL level. And I say it every single week, and I'll say it again. I play, and most of us play dynasty in a 2 to 3 year window.
Yeah, always.
Go stick a guy on your taxi squad. Go see if you get somebody his 2nd year in the league who could actually get you in week 13 when you really need a win because it's the bipocalypse. He could get you 8 points, and if he falls in the end zone, he gets you, 14 to 16 points, and you're ecstatic.
No, for sure.
Anyone that didn't get drafted on this board that you have an eye on that you want to talk about that could be a 4th rounder, because I know we didn't do 4 rounds tonight, or could be a player to get off of the waiver wire.
I mean, beyond the quarterbacks that didn't go off the board, since this is super flex. I mean, like we said, Tyler Shaw and Kyle McCord. I think those are the 2, comparatively to Quinn, errors and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to think. I hear a lot about.
I have one more name.
I was going to say Terrence Ferguson, but Terrence Ferguson. I think he was the other guy. Not anybody else that I really, have a lot of feelings about, but Who do you
The
have?
one, well, I don't know how into this player I am. I'll be honest. I've only ever seen a couple minutes of his YouTube film, his chopped up highlights. I've never seen a TCU game in my freaking life.
Okay.
But Jack Betch, I believe is how you say his last name, or Beck. I'm not sure. Betch.
Okay.
Look, this is a kid who was the #1 target earner at LSU as a freshman with Malik Neighbors and BTJ on that team. He transferred to TCU, obviously, because he clearly wasn't better than BTJ or Neighbors, who are now wide receivers 4 and 5 in startup rankings, potentially 3 and 4 after Chase and JJ, depending on how you have it ranked. I think he's another guy that, again, could be an archetype in that Hunter Renfrow type of, he's not going to wow you. He's not going to do a ton, but like,
just has to run a crisp route to get.
He's got to run crisp routes and be a possession guy to move the chains. And at the end of the day, in week 13, 14, before you hit the playoffs, when it's the crazy second part of the bipocalypse and you might need a guy, or your team is decimated with injuries, which is going to happen because that is what happens every single year. It's just an interesting player to keep an eye on and throw on your taxi squad. So, anybody else? Otherwise, I think I am probably ready to wrap it, man. I think we're good. And if there's anyone in the chat that has any questions, as always, we love them. Throw them in there. We're happy to answer anything that you guys have. Otherwise, good draft. Appreciate everyone that was able to show up. I know we like to do these live and obviously get real folks in, so we're not drafting against the computer and just going down the rankings. And then, yeah, man. I don't know if we'll have a show next week, TBD, because it's a big weekend.
It is.
It's a big weekend. Thursday.
Yeah,
Thursday, it starts Thursday. I'm going to have it on. I'm going to be glued to the TV on Thursday for that first round, man. It's going to be on in the background.
So I will be on the New York Rush Giants podcast.
There you go. Attaboy. Well, drop the link
New
for
York
us,
Giants
man.
Rushed. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I know you were telling us about that in the chat today. That was awesome in the group chat.
Yeah, it's their 100 fans 2-day annual fourth draft, or their fourth annual draft, which is cool. So I got invited for a 10-minute spot for that. So I think it's on Thursday between 7 and 8. They didn't really give me a time yet, but excited to do that.
Well, put the link in I know you'll put it in our group chat, but I will tune into that as well. So
for sure.
All right. Well, as always, we appreciate everyone being here and enjoy your Friday night. For all of us here at the Get Right Fantasy Network, this has been another episode of The Extra Point. And Mike, my guy, I will see you soon. And everybody have a very happy holiday weekend. Stay safe. Enjoy. I got to minimize my screen so I can get our outro going. Otherwise, this is why I need you to do the
I'm right here. I can do it.
Man. I know. I got it. No. I got to finish my own show. I got to finish.
There you go.
So. All right. Well, you appreciate it. We will either see you next week or the week after. Enjoy the NFL draft. We out.
Wanted to write fantasy is the play. Marking nothing, but I tune in every Friday. Strategies provided, I will lock in every way. So go and roll your sleeve.